Welcome to the Heart of Education podcast. Join Rock as your guide on his journey to reawaken the hearts of parents and children to the love of learning and to draw wisdom from within. In each episode, we will learn together from other revolutionary parents, teachers, and guides about their journey towards the heart of education. Come join the revolution for education.
Hello and welcome to the second episode of the Heart of Education. My name is Rock. I'm your host today, and today we are going to be talking to Stephanie Hussein, who is a homeschooling mom, about her experience with homeschooling. So I'm going to bring her on right now.
Hello.
Hey, how are you doing? Can
Doing
you hear me?
good. Yes.
Awesome. Yeah. All right. So I just introduced you real quick as Stephanie Hussein, but if you would like to add on anything else to that, please go ahead and share.
Well, I'm a homeschooling mom of four. Well, I have four kids. I'm homeschooling currently three of them, and so I will one day, Lord willing, homeschool all four. So, but yeah, I don't know. I'm a proud
Awesome.
mom. I thought I'm doing it.
Do you mind telling the audience like the ages of your kids? Like, like from
Yes. Yes. So my oldest is 6, and he's doing first grade. My second one is 4, and she's doing kindergarten. My 3-year-old, pre-K, and then I have a baby, a 1-year-old.
Oh wow,
So yeah.
that's quite the range.
Yep.
Awesome. Yeah. So I guess the first question I have is, what made you decide to homeschool?
Oh man. So why homeschool? It was not because of COVID. I have several friends who COVID just kind of knocked them out, and then other reasons too. But yeah, this was actually a dream of mine, and I feel every time I share this with people, they're like, "Oh wow, like yeah, I actually wanted this. This is like my big dream was since I was 11 years old, was to be a wife, get married, be a stay-at-home mommy, and homeschool my kids. That was my one dream. I went to college, and everyone asked me, "What do you want to do? Like, what degree do you have?" I'm like, "Well, I want to be a stay-at-home mom and homeschool my kids. I don't know why I'm here." Like, so that I'm weird. I'm one of the weird ones who that's all that I ever wanted, and I'm blessed that he gave it to me. I mean, I wasn't sure that he was going to. At some point, I released that dream to him, and he decided to give that to me. So I'm thankful and I'm blessed that I get to do it. But yeah, since I was 11, I was homeschooled myself. I was homeschooled kindergarten, then second through 8th grade. And so it was, see, I was 11, so I was at the end of 7th grade was when I think we were at some type of like end of the year event with our homeschool group. And we weren't independent. We were part of a homeschool school. It was called Neighborhood Christian School. They kept our cume file, did testing. We were a school. We met every week for like a Friday school thing, kind of like a co-op. And but yeah, it was at the end of the year. We were presenting our projects and stuff like that, and it just dawned on me, wow, I can't believe my mom has done this whole time, and I love it, and I want to do this. So it just hit me. I remember at that event, and since then it was like other things didn't matter as much. Like that was just the dream I had, and I think it was because she was home all the time. I got to have school at my pace. I got to experience a lot of cool things. I wasn't alone. I wasn't isolated. We did a lot of things, even community sports. I mean, I played soccer, I did piano, but I was at a level that my family members, other people, like I was at a higher level just because I got to go at my own pace. We got to actually learn more, do more. I got to learn math not in a giant classroom. I got to have someone help me with those things that I didn't get or whatever. I got it was like having a tutor every day, you know, like back in the old days when the rich could afford that and well, we're poor and yet I get to have this tutor. That's not really how I thought of it then. That's how I'm thinking of it now. But but still I was able to enter public high school in a public school. I was ahead of everybody else. And just so like it's not that I'm super smart, it's just that I had the time and you know just we had it's like it creates homeschooling creates a little bit more opportunity in some way to learn things that you might not get in a big classroom if you things like being at home can help with that. And anyway, point being that was my dream. I realized what my mom was able to give us, she's what she sacrificed, and I wanted to do that too for my own kids, and that was just a desire God put in my heart. And so and yeah, and I didn't know in when I had my kids if there was a homeschool group even that existed that was similar to that. And that's what I really wanted. I didn't want to do charter, even though that's free or like cheap or whatever, but it's public school. Like I wanted what I had, and I didn't know that existed, but God blessed me with that too. And so um, I'm I'm really thankful. I'm really thankful. But yeah,
Wow. That's so you had this dream since you were a kid, and hey, you know what? Who am I to judge whatever dreams? Yeah. What has been, the most valuable lesson, in this journey of, homeschooling your kids? I believe you said you homeschool three of them.
school three. I mean, the third, my 3 year old, she tags along and she does some things. So I'm homeschooling her, but I'm
Hmm.
parenting her. I mean, she's preschool, and I don't really care about preschool, but I mean, they're learning. They're always learning. I mean, that's really what it is. You're always learning as a kid, and she's soaking up everything. I'm not focused as much on getting her to read yet, and but she already writes her name because she's the third kid and she's ahead of just because I don't know. She just decided to learn that, but yeah, valuable lesson. My goodness. Oh, there's a lot of things. As I said, this was my dream. A lot of things in my life don't always go haven't gone how I planned it. I didn't know it was going to be this hard. For one thing, it's hard. It's a big sacrifice, but it's worth it for me. And one thing that I love is being a part of a community, like a group, like we're part of a homeschool school, like where it's all homeschool families. There's other people who can encourage me, give ideas, or someone else to say it's okay. It's like, oh, it's okay. Like try something else. It's okay to try something else. It's okay to, let this they're having a really hard time or getting frustrated about something. Like reading can get frustrating. Learning to read. It's like it's okay to not pressure them so much that they have to do A, B, and C right now. It's like it's okay, especially like starting my kids so young. And we started younger because my son we started him when he was not even 5 yet. He was 4. He was turning 5 as a kindergartner, so that was kind of young. But he was interested in reading. He really wanted to do it, and so we decided to do it. But like really, it's like going at your kids' pace, learning how to let things go and be flexible with homeschooling. It's not as possible where the state is mandating that you have to do certain things. You have to get through certain steps. You have to pass this, pass that. You have to 2 hours okay for my kindergarten. 2 hours, and that's fine. It's okay. So that flexibility helps a lot. So I've had to just my flexibility skills. But then also that it's okay to let things go and it's okay to try again or try a different way. But really having that accountability, encouragement, other homeschooling parents, because I know that there are people who do this independently, and I don't know how. I mean, that's also God's grace, I guess, but I need that encouragement. I need other perspectives. So, and I'm not going to get it all right, and I fail. So that's the thing. Like, and that's in life in general. Like, it also applies here. And when you're mixing, one of the things that you've talked about before is that when you're homeschooling, you're also parenting at the same time. So it's like it's nonstop. It's nonstop throughout the day, and that makes it harder. But that also makes it more rewarding. But I fail, and I have to own up to when I failed and when I made mistakes. And but it's also really great, kids. God is good. God is so gracious to get us through when we make mistakes, when I can own up to it with my kids, when times of frustration, because we get frustrated with each other. And I remember that with my mom. I remember being really angry when she would tell me that I got my math problem wrong. I remember being so mad at her. So I could see that in my own kids. I'm like, okay, I know. I understand. We're going to get through it, and we're going to work on our anger together. We're going to let Jesus help us. And so I get to do that. We get to work together, and it's life together. So I don't even know if I answered that question exactly, but there's a lot of things that I've learned. I mean, it's God's grace in the process. And I still sometimes don't know what I'm doing with homeschooling. This is only my second year. We're going into finishing the second year of homeschooling, and I'm like, what am I doing? But even then, I get a lot of encouragement. Oh, it's okay. You're doing great. And I have seen that they do love it, and so they see what they struggle in as. But then we get to work on it and to be flexible and go at their pace. Yeah. Did I answer your question?
Yes. Wow. Yeah. So what I'm hearing from you is that it's the flexibility and also the idea of going at their pace, and you're learning that just like your mom did, like the idea of being patient and seeing almost like a parallel journey where what you've experienced with your mom, you're now experiencing as the mom, of course.
Right.
And yeah, that's awesome. And second year, I mean, that's great. You got through your first year. Now you're about to be done with the sophomore year, so to speak.
Yep.
Yeah. What has surprised you the most about homeschooling? I know you've experienced it as a child yourself, but now that you're in the parent's shoe, what about the experience has surprised you the most?
Oh man, how hard it is. And that's what that was with parenting as well. It was like because it was a dream of mine since I was young. I think we kind of romanticize our dreams as children, and as we grow up, it's going to be so beautiful. And I remember even in high school, college, whenever I would see a woman pregnant, I'm like, oh, it's so beautiful. I was like, oh, this is horrible. This is so awful. And some women have really beautiful, wonderful, easy pregnancies, so that we don't have that. So it was the same thing. It was like all of those things that were my dream about parenting and homeschooling. It's like all of those things was like reality check when it happened. Oh, it's not so beautiful. This, beautiful painting. Like that's kind of the feeling I had. And then it hit me like, oh, this is hard. This is really hard work. And even when I was preparing for starting kindergarten with our son, I remember we found school. Sarah Britton, shout out to Sarah Britton, who is the Wonder Woman super mom that I still don't understand. She's an anomaly to me because she does so much. But she was like, Stephanie, you want to homeschool? Check, you have to come check out her. I remember going and being so overwhelmed with just all the information. It's like, and then it was like mine goes blank of uh surreal and daunting. It's like all of a sudden it's daunting, all this stuff. Like, how am I gonna do this? I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. And I even had some books that my mom had passed down. She kept my aunt, I think one or two, at least one of my aunts used it for her kids. They were younger than us. It's like how to read, like things spell, read, and write. And I didn't have a whole curriculum. All I had were books and some songs. And so I was like, well, I can use these books to teach my son how to read, and they're really good books. But other than that, I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, what do you do? So yeah, just how hard it is. And this is true with every stage of your kids, there's changes. Whenever you change a routine, it's hard. It's hard to change a routine and adapt to something new. And so even that idea was like, okay, and I have other kids too. I have my 4-year-old, 5-year-old who turned 5 in kindergarten, but then I also had these two younger girls. Like, what do I do with them when we're trying to do school? And then now they're older, but still they're constantly interrupting me or they're loud, or they start fighting or whatever. So it's just not hard. I didn't think how hard it was going to be. Like, I didn't think about that. And you don't really know until you go into it, and then you don't know how different your kids are going to be, and just how challenging that's going to be to adapt to each child, which I know that's just going to be a journey as we go and as they get older, of readjusting. Like, and so I'm thinking through those things, but I know it's still going to be hard when I get to that new thing, that new stage that they're going to be going through. But like my son, he's really quick in memorizing stuff. He can hear, he memorizes Bible verses each week for our Friday school classes, and he can hear it. He's got it. And then my daughter, on the other hand, she doesn't even want to try. And so I'm like, okay, I know you can memorize things, but what's going on? So anyways, just like that's one example of I could choose to be frustrated, which I've done. I've gotten frustrated with her. It's like, okay, no, this is just, they're different, and that's okay. And she doesn't have to get that every time. And part of that too is me being like an A student. It's like, I want my kids to be the A student as well. But guess what? They might not be, so I have to just, readjust those expectations for them. And that's hard. That's really hard. It's hard to let go of expectations that I might have had for my own kids. But yeah. Oh, that was the most surprising, for sure. I did not expect it to be this hard. And but at the same time, it's also gotten easier. Like, I've readjusted to rhythms. It's like it's a new rhythm. Just like you adjust when you have a new baby. It's like there's a rhythm of nap time you figure out. Then now they're teething. Now there's a rhythm. Oh, now there's another growth spurt. Now it's a new rhythm again. It's like now they're down to one nap. A new rhythm again. Oh, now they're not napping anymore. What do? I don't have any free time anymore. Now what do? They're awake all day. It's a new normal, and you have to readjust. And so like I feel like that's kind of how I am with homeschooling. Like, I'm readjusting. And so right now we've only been doing school in the afternoons. We're like a little bit before lunch. I started that this year, a little bit before lunch, and then afternoon, just because of what I needed. And then when they're awake, and some people have to do it in the morning because that's just when their child is able to do it, be able to, focus. So it's like, but you have to pick that. And so we don't do school all day long. But this next year, I'm going to try to start in the morning, and we'll see how it goes. So we'll see, but I feel more ready for that. And when we first started, that seemed crazy. Like, there's no way I can wake up and get us ready to start doing school in the morning. Like, I can't even think, so, with all my little kids. So I'm like, okay, I think I can start doing this now. But anyways, we'll see. But yeah, it's hard.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned that parental expectation piece. I'm learning that a lot about being a parent, as well as, like, I have this expectation of what should or shouldn't my daughter be doing at this point, and it's like, well, that's just where she's at. And regardless, right? And it helps me to examine myself, like, oh wow, I did not realize I had the expectation. Even when I remember she was supposed to be born on a certain date,
Ah,
and she didn't come.
yeah.
And we were like, "Hey, what's going on?" You know,
Uh-huh.
we're talking to
Yeah.
her like in a sense, or I was thinking to myself, and then I realized, wow, she's not even born yet. I'm already having this expectation of like she should be on time. I'm like, what is on time? There's no
Right.
such thing
Right.
as on time. I had to let that go when I
Yeah.
realized, like, wow, okay,
Yeah.
that was an interesting experience.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so good. That's so good. On time. Yes.
Hmm.
And especially for those of us who've been in like the, I don't know, American school system, just like they're at certain times you're supposed to learn certain things. At this age you learn this, at this age you learn this, at this age you learn this, like whatever. And even going through public high school, but even thinking about when I learn certain things, like I have to stop putting that on my kids. So just because I learned this at this age doesn't mean you have to be learning this at this age. Like I don't have to, I can let you struggle through this if you need to. Let's struggle together. Let's get through. It's okay. And especially like with my 4-year-old, he did kindergarten this year, but we started her young, and we decided because she was too scared. I asked her, like, are you ready to go to first grade the next year? Do you want to go in that class? She, no, no. So I'm like, okay. It's like she's young, but it's also her emotionally. Like I need to be sensitive to her fear. Like she does fear, she's timid, she gets nervous. And actually I was that way too. But I need to be careful of putting my experience into their experience because it's going to be different. Like just because I was also homeschooled, just I also had a stay-at-home mom doesn't mean their experience is the same. You know?
Hmm.
And so, yeah,
Absolutely. Thank you. Yes, thank you for sharing that. So in your experience, does how one parent directly affect how one homeschools? So like, like maybe if a parent has like a particular parenting style, that's basically how it shows up when they start homeschooling. Has that been true in your experience as a homeschooler yourself, and maybe observing other homeschool families?
yes, absolutely, absolutely, it goes hand in hand. And this it's actually something I've been thinking about a lot recently. But how you parent is has to affect educating your kids. Because I firmly believe this. The home is the number one influence of your child. Just because your child, say, is in public school 5 days out of the week, most of the day, and they're at home less time, doesn't mean their biggest influence is the school. Their biggest influence is not the school, it's not their peers, it's not their teachers, it's not those people, it's the parents at home. It's your home environment, your own culture. And by culture, I don't mean um like ethnic culture. Like every group, every home, every household has their own culture and how people relate to each other, how you speak to each other. And that stems from a belief system. So it's what you believe as a parent. Are you an intentional parent, or are you just like trying to make it through the month? Kind of how we treat money. I'm just uh, you know, we're barely making it. Are you just on survival mode all the time?
Hmm.
Um, like paycheck to paycheck. Like, are you parenting like you're paycheck to paycheck with your kids, or are you
Mm.
intentional? Are you doing things on purpose? And this is actually something that was challenging me in one of my classes in college. So long before I even knew Sean, still single, didn't know if I was ever going to be married. But I mean, I learned a lot about being a wife and being a mother from my college experience. But I remember one day, one professor, he said, parents, you are responsible before God to educate your kids. You are the primary educators of your kids. I was like, okay. And he said, that doesn't mean you have to homeschool. No matter where your kids go to school, you are the primary educators of your kids. And he said, my kids were not homeschooled, but
Mm.
when they were home, we would talk about what they learned that day. And that was on purpose, intentional. Like you have to make a decision to have a lifestyle of it. Like this is a lifestyle, this is intention. And he said, and you would plan, like, I want my kids to learn about, I think it was learning how to tell time by having a watch, by just looking at the sun and shadows. So he taught his son to tell the time by just being outside in the shadows, kind of like sundial, old school, really old school way of telling the time, so that his son would know when he was playing out with friends when he needed to be home. So it's like he taught his son to do that. And so that was one example he gave us. Holidays, like it's like I want my kids to know more, celebrate and do this for Martin Luther King, or certain days of the year. It's like, do this, and I'm going to teach them this. But he valued that, and that was a belief and a conviction he had because of Deuteronomy 5, Deuteronomy 6. Fathers, teach your kids the. Oh, shoot. I can't think of the quote. Like raise your kids in the fear of the Lord. Teach your kids these things as you're lying down, as you're going, as you're coming. That passage. I think it's Deuteronomy 5 or Deuteronomy 6. Oh man. But it was a conviction, a deeply rooted conviction of his, because of that God is holding him accountable for his household, for how he loves his wife, for how he teaches and trains up his children. And so that was a huge challenge for me. And that became something that I believed even before I had kids. And so I knew going into this, like it's absolutely connected. It's your mind. So our home culture has everything to do with how we homeschool. And guess what? Things that personally I struggle with already with parenting also come in the homeschool process as well. So like my frustrations, all of that stems from just how our home culture and my person, the growth that I still need, that God's helping me with. And so all of it just goes. So if you want to be a successful homeschool parent, you need to think about what your home, how you're setting your home culture. What is it like? How do you relate to others? What are you doing on purpose? Like it has to be on purpose. And everything is a learning opportunity. Like just living life, there's learning opportunities all the time. So you're constantly teaching them. No matter if you're homeschooling or not, you're constantly teaching them how you respond to something, how you respond to something. How do you respond to those new laws being passed? How do you respond to social issues? Like your kids are watching you and learning you and copying you, whether that's all the good things and all the bad things. They're mimicking you and they're learning everything from you. So anyway, this is but wow. I hope it makes sense. If I was clear.
Oh no, yeah, it was clear. Yeah, because I've been thinking about that question myself as well, and I still have yet to find a word in a dictionary, at least, where it kind of means both parenting and homeschooling, because there isn't really like a word that kind of encapsulates, I think, both things. But so I don't know if you know the more words than I'm pretty sure you know more words than I do. But it's I'm just like I don't know what to call it. Homeschool parenting or parenting homeschool, like with a hyphen or something. But yeah, so it's awesome to talk with parents who are also homeschooling themselves, and like you had great awareness of like, wow, my frustrations in parenting show up also in homeschooling, because like of that we talk about that parental expectation, like what we expect as a parent, we project also into homeschooling, like hey, I was great at school, so you should be great at school, or I did not struggle in this subject at all, so same thing. Yeah, so that's a great insight into because I think a lot of times parents just think like they have this image of like, I want to homeschool, and then inevitably they start copying what they grew up with or how they were taught, right? And same with me as a teacher, I was like, I cannot teach these kids the same way I was taught when I was in school. There's no way that's going to work. And so I
Yeah.
had to learn how to like adapt that as well. So awesome to hear
Right.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's also the aspect of if you went traditional school, so private or public, like it was in a classroom 5 days a week, and then now you're homeschooling. Sometimes we can think, I need to be like my teachers. I need to teach my kids at home the same way that those teachers taught, and that's the same thing. You don't, like, it could be completely different. Like you don't have to be sitting up and you don't have to, you know, really personal. It could be really laid back. Like sometimes, yeah, we do even when we have the traditional school back when we do that.
Absolutely.
But yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So the next question I have is, what's something you've well, I think we kind of can answer this. So let's just jump to this. What's something that's missing from homeschooling that you wish you had perhaps more of?
Energy. I wish I had more energy. Sometimes I think like, and I'm a fairly creative person, I guess. But when it comes to homeschooling, I'm so tired. I'm like, I'm not creative. How was my mom so creative and how did she have so much energy to do this? Like, this is so exhausting. So, I mean, that's kind of like the first thing I think of is I wish I had more energy. Um, I mean, and as far as like resources, I almost feel like there's so much out there. And as when I first started homeschooling, I felt like that was daunting. I'm like, I don't even know where to look. I don't know what I need to buy. What do I buy? What do I get for a kindergarten math book? And so the biggest thing for me was learning that I can just ask people for help. So like just ask someone who's been doing this for a while. Like, what did you use? What worked?
Hmm.
And that's fine. So I didn't have to be so freaked out because I was really freaked out.
Hmm.
And so like there's a lot of resources, a lot of tools, a lot of like videos on YouTube. I mean, and so as of right now, um I mean, I'd love to do more like hands-on stuff with my kids. Like my son, he is very hands-on. I mean, he's male, he's a boy, but
Hmm.
also he loves to see how things work too. So he has this kind of more mechanical. He doesn't, there's something science he doesn't like. He doesn't like insects, learning about. He
Hmm.
didn't like, we did ocean animals. It's like he freaked out about the pictures. But when it comes to certain experiments, he likes more mechanical things. So like building, more like he loved learning about the inventors. He loves that. He wants to invent things. He's like, Mom, when am I going to invent this? I'm like, well, do it. Start drawing pictures. Like, oh, I can't draw. I'm like, okay,
Hmm.
well, you got to start somewhere if you're going to invent it.
Hmm.
But that was kind of where. So, but even with that, I'm like, I need to have more energy, but then also work at his level. Um, but you know what? That is something I think I would like is more because like he loves Legos to an extent, but I know he would love building things. But I don't know. We'll see if I
Okay.
get to a place where I can incorporate more of that. But
Well, I mean, I think that, as my background as a STEM teacher, I can offer you quite a few things on that. Let's
yeah.
see here. So, I'm sure, your kids want your phone and whatnot. So they want to play games. A great game actually that can help your kids kind of like get programming logic is actually called Lightbot. It's
Uh,
very simple. You just move the robot through a maze, but you have to, program the direction, so to speak. So it's teaching
ooh.
about like logic, and
Uh-huh.
it's got a lot of different levels. So if your kids are gonna at least grab your phone and play a game, might as well let them play something that teaches them something of
It was
value. You know,
educational.
yeah, it's very educational, and
That's
they're
cool.
gonna be learning like logic. Like,
Uh-huh.
okay, for the robot to move from the beginning to the end, I need to go, up three, down four, etc. So it really teaches them, without them realizing that this is just logic. Kind
Mhm.
of like playing chess and whatnot. So that's one. Let's see here. So on code.org, they have Hour of Code, and they have very similar games to kind of what I just mentioned about Lightbot, but they also have all these other things that kids can try out. And it's their push to get more kids to kind of start coding. It's all free, by the way. Everything I'm telling you is free.
Nice.
Um, there's also, let's see here. So something that was mentioned that I've used with my students is the aluminum boat foil challenge. So you just get aluminum foil, you say build a boat and put it in water, and grab a bunch of coins, preferably the same ones, like pennies or quarters, doesn't matter. You just keep dropping them in there until the boat sinks, and you go through
Mhm.
some questions about like, hey, what can be when it sank, what happened, what made the boat sink, and maybe we can redo it. How would I rebuild this boat so that I make it even stronger and hold even more coins?
Ah, yeah.
So those are very simple
Okay.
activities that all ages can do. Especially I know because you have young
Cool.
kids. They have some kind of idea what a boat is, and they can use
Right.
aluminum foil. You might
Yeah.
want to help the really young ones with maybe the folding part.
Uh-huh.
But they can come with their idea, and they can even collaborate if they wanted to, or make it a competition. Doesn't
Yeah.
matter. Um, so I'm just offering you
That's
all
a good
these
idea.
very simple, yeah, very simple things. I know that subscriptions to like STEM boxes are very popular. I think, like, for one example, like KiwiCo or something like that. I
Mhm.
like them, but the only thing I have an issue with, and maybe because I don't have a subscription to, is because you build the thing, whatever it is that they tell you to build, but then there's really no, like, what are you actually learning from that? You're just building this thing. Like, it's like you built a
Uh,
Lego, awesome. I play with it,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
what did you really learn out of it? And that's where you as a parent can step in some questions like, how can I make this better? What are some
Yeah.
different designs? Let's go on YouTube and look at different designs.
Mhm,
Especially with
mhm.
the boat challenge, you can do that. You can even build a balloon power boat, which is kind of the same thing, but you have more materials at home. You just say, hey, here's a balloon, make a boat out of it. And
Mhm.
whatever materials you have. And that's a great activity, especially if you live around like a lake or something. You could just put in a lake and see how far it goes, or a
Mhm.
pool. So those are some great ideas, especially with summer coming up, of course. That's why I mentioned all these
Yeah.
water based activities. Um, there's the marshmallow challenge. So that one's really fun. It's basically you can go to TED Talk and actually Google this. It's the marshmallow challenge. So you can Google that, but basically you give your kid marshmallows, spaghetti, yard of tape, 1 yard of yarn, and you just tell them,
Mhm.
I want you to build the tallest possible structure
Ooh.
with the marshmallow on top.
Ooh.
Yeah, and that one is really fun. And the TED Talk is really awesome because the guy who's speaking, he's done this activity with all ages, all kinds of people around the world, and he talks about his like observation and his his analysis from the data that he's gotten just from watching all these people do the same exact very simple activity. And it's amazing, and that's why I think most that's why I like STEM, and but I'm still expanding myself, of course, and learning about how a lot of the mindsets in STEM, right? Like you said, like if we get frustrated as a
Mhm.
parent, we don't just stop. We adjust, we adapt, we apologize, and we move on. You know,
Right.
and
Yeah.
I think the same mindset is like, what is failure in STEM? Like if your boat
Mhm.
sank, is that the end of it? No, you just gotta go back to the drawing board and redo it. If you take it
Yeah.
personal, like, oh, what does it mean to me? Like, oh, I'm a dumb kid or whatever. Like, then of course you're gonna stop. So it's the internal message that we tell ourselves about the external
Yeah.
things that happen, right? Like, oh
Mhm.
no, my boat sank. Bummer. Okay.
Mhm. Mhm.
And what does that mean to you? And that's a great lesson for the kid to learn. Like, what does that mean to you? Like, are you taking it as like, oh, I'm no good at this? Well, you just did it the first time, so maybe try again. Um,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
definitely,
That's good.
yeah, I mean that affects our parenting. How you homeschool,
Mhm.
like you said, you're adapting to the kids, you're learning, like, oh, that didn't work. Let's try something else.
Yeah.
you know? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I hope like giving you some great resources to start with, and of course to our audience as well. There's one more called scratch.mit.edu. So it's a coding
Mhm.
language that MIT folks made just for kids. Um, it really once you get into it, and the kids learn, they pick up on this so fast. I know my students always pick up on it way faster than I did. Like they were building games, they were building like their own little like slideshows, they were building stories with it. They're building, yeah, they're just building so many things with it. It's incredible. And that coding program has been around for like, I think good 20 years now, maybe, I think, but it's still
Wow.
going strong because it's still like one of the best ones. And you can find like tons of free lessons online to give you ideas of what they can build, you know. So those are definitely some great resources for you as well. You know, thank you as my thank you for coming on the show.
Yeah.
But also, I have one last question I just said before we get off. So
Sure.
as you know, the podcast is called The Heart of Education. So I was wondering, what does the heart of education look like to you? What does it look like, sound like, you know, smell like, taste like? You know, having going through the homeschooling experience, I'm just curious, like,
Mhm.
what do you feel is the heart of education?
Man, that I mean, I think it's very personal. It's going to be different for each person. For me, it's what I want to teach my kids. Again, I mean, that stems from, of course, being an intentional parent. I'm parenting intentionally. I'm
Hmm.
educating intentionally. I mean, parenting and educating is the same thing. And so it's what I want them to learn. And so when I think of like what's the main thing I want them to learn, and the main thing we talk about every single day, it's like it's not that I want you to learn math. It's we're learning how to work through we don't know, to work on our anger, to work on our frustration, to work on what's the truth. So it comes back to what's the truth and what's the lie. The lie is that it's not good at this. The lie, the truth is, yeah, maybe you got it wrong, but you can learn. You are capable of learning what the right thing is. We are capable of working through it. But like the main thing, it's for me is teaching them about love, teaching them to love. How do I respond so that I'm loving someone rather than hurting someone? Making a choice to make a wise choice, and oftentimes that leads into am I being selfish or am I thinking about loving other people? And so that's for me, and that of course stems from Jesus and what who I believe he is and who he is for me and what he's done in my life. And so he is the center of how I want to educate kids. I want them to learn who they are in Christ, who they really are, not just what they want to when they grow up, what they want to accomplish. Who they really are has nothing to do with that. And that that is going to empower them to live. It's going to empower them to be able to work with other people because they'll have a perspective of love. It's going to be their choice, but as parents, that's my goal is to show them what love looks like. And
Absolutely.
how do
Mhm.
we fail forward? How do we learn how to fail? Um, and how do we love one another? Like that's the most important thing. And I mean, other people are going to have a different answer to that of what the heart of education. For me, it comes down to that, like that my kids learn. For me, and how do I respond to the world? How do I respond in love? How am I like Jesus? Because I believe that I'm his princess. I'm a princess of the King of Kings. And so how do I respond that way, and how can they learn to be that? And that's an important thing to me, and that I can teach them practically, because doing school subjects like math, building something, you're going to be running into all of those issues because it's part of life. It's like, oh, what does math have to do with anything? Well, it's not about math. It's about can you work through it? Can you get through it? And I'm just using math as an example because we tend to think of math as being emotional and sometimes meaningless in life. Like, I never use math. What I had to do with math, I never used it as an adult. Well, you know, it's like, yeah, okay, we should learn it because, yeah, like we should learn some logic. There's some rules, and when you follow the rule, you get this answer. So, like, there is some life lessons, still practical in that. But yeah, it's the value that I'm leaving in my kids. The value for me is what is true love, and how can I live in that, and how can I be that in the world? It's dark, so I don't know. That's okay.
I think you do know.
I know. I just don't know if that was the answer that you were looking for.
Oh
But
no, I'm not looking for any
that's
answer. I'm
what I mean.
asking,
That's yeah.
I'm not looking for any particular answers. I'm just genuinely curious about what you think the hard education is. I'm on this journey as well. That's why the title of the podcast is the hard education. We're getting back to it, and sounds really, really nice. But what does it mean, right? And I'm always
Yeah.
curious about what different people have to offer regarding that.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, don't worry. It is not a test.
Yeah.
I know it's kind of weird. I know it's kind of weird because I'm still a public school teacher. I guess I have
Yeah,
that
no.
persona. I guess.
And you know what? Like that answer is going to be different for everybody, and I believe that it like that's okay. Like how I am educating my kids on purpose. I'm not trying, and I don't want to put that on everybody else. Like,
Mm-hmm.
not everyone else has the same worldview as me. I mean, my worldview comes from the Bible. And even not every Christian has the same worldview as me.
Mm-hmm.
Not every Christian has the same convictions as me. And I need to be really careful. I have strong conviction to the world that I am not the hall monitor of the world. Like, me being the salt and light of the world doesn't mean, oh, you need to all operate the way I'm operating. As a daughter of God, like, no, like, the world is going to do what the world's going to do, and I need to, it's like, there's nothing I can do except love. Like, my responsibility is love and compassion, not force people to behave like me, and so my response should be compassion, not judgment. So I'm very much for that. And then when it comes to other believers, like, I need to also be gracious. Like, not everyone is going to have that conviction as me, and everyone's on their own journey, so all I can do is love and encourage, and that's really where what I want: love and encourage others and be okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, everyone's gonna have their own definition of that, and that's okay. But if we can learn from each other and have open minds, and for other Christians, let God lead, and God's gonna lead and grow and challenge us. And it's okay that, what, this is something I just thought of. It's okay to implement something new, or it's never too late to implement something new.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's one really big thing. If we're open minded, and like, it's okay that, oh, I haven't been doing this. Like, it's okay to start afresh. It might be an uphill battle, but sometimes parenting is an uphill battle with things. But some things are worth the battle, and I can try something new, and then it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway,
All right, absolutely. Well, thank you for coming on the show,
yeah.
and thank you so much.
Thank you, Rock. This is fun.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you.
All right.